How's it going, YouTube? Coming in today with another video, and today, guys, the video is going to be Deck Help 101, and I really do hope that this helps you because this is going to be more of a generic video going into the format and going into the game in general, just talking about things that you need to do to prep for an event, things that you need to do to think about what you're going to build for your next event, your next idea, and how to optimize it. It's going to be a lot about your main, your side, the cards you should be playing, when you should be playing them, why you should be playing them, and much more. If you haven't already checked out my sponsors over on RW, Cloud, Gem, Arla, Imperium, Dragonshield, and Grimoire, definitely go ahead and do so all down below in the description. Hey all, so you've definitely seen Arla on my channel lately, and I love board games, and I was overly thrilled when they came to me about their new game. This is something made by duelists for duelists, and I just love the fact that you have such diverse movement in a board game of all things, right? It just is a really cool addition and element to the game. You have a ton of different roles to choose from, and I really love the wizard because it gives you additional RNG as far as getting to cards that you really need to progress in the game. It's really cool, and as an English major, I just love the very first line here. Just a once peaceful kingdom has now fallen into chaos for the first time in 1,000 years. And, you know, this is going to be your own role to start your own journey to try to get things back in order. And, you know, the only question I have for you now is, are you ready to play Monster Cash Race? Also, subscribe to the channel. We are 98 away from 24,000 and on our way to 30,000. So if you want more educational videos and more content from me, subscribe to the channel, let me know that you enjoy the videos, and we'll keep on going, just like we're about to go into the next slide here. So the first piece of advice that I have for you today is going to be build your main against the most popular decks, and then build your side against your worst matchup. Now, this could be a little different. Let's say that the most popular deck is your worst matchup. Sometimes you really have to, like, over-cater your main deck to be able to beat that worst matchup if it's going to be really popular. And then if the rest of your main still looks pretty good in different matchups, just kind of have extra help in your side to help you beat the other matchups. But you really should be kind of catering your main deck generically toward your worst matchup, but also having a good spread into the room, because even if your worst matchup isn't that popular, you still want to have at least something in there if you're still going to be seeing it like 1 to 2 times throughout the day, so you're not just like auto losing, but you are still going to be putting in some cards on your side to make sure that you don't lose. Let's say that your worst matchup was Malice, you're not maining Lancia, you're not maining Chaos Hunter, but you're maining things like Nibiru, because you know that that's going to be a really solid card into that matchup as well, so therefore you're going to be setting in Lancios and Chaos Hunters, which would be your worst matchup, and that is your side deck, and that's where it comes into play. That being said, please always prep for rounds 5 to 9 and not 1 to 4. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've been in a coaching session with someone and they're like, I am so afraid of seeing Fluanderies. Fluanderies is going to be the end of my regional run. And I'm like, listen, you might see it in rounds 1 to 4, but the odds are like 0 to 0.001 right now, right? It's not super popular, and let's say you do run into it, everyone's maining Droll and siding Lancia, right? So you're still in a really good position. And that's something where, let's say you're really afraid of, like, Plunder, right? And you're like, if I play against Plunder, I'm gonna lose. And you might think that's silly, but each one of you watching this video right now have that notion going into an event. And it's a deck that you probably won't even play against, but you're like, if I play against this deck, I'm gonna lose. And, like, I know it. I've been there. But you're not gonna play against it. And if you do, it's like 0 to 1 or 0 to 2% chance, right? If it's a really low-rated deck. So, therefore, you should always make sure that you are prepping for rounds 5 to 9 when you're going to be playing against your Ryzeo, your Mitsurai, your Malice, your Fiend Mitsu, whatever the most popular decks are, right? Even like Blue Eyes and maybe Crystron, which by the numbers, those 4 decks are your top 4 decks in the format, just by the numbers right now. So that is very interesting with where we're at currently, but this is a huge thing for you to think about moving forward, is you want to make sure that you are prepping for those matchups and not the matchups that aren't going to be as relevant, because that's how you start losing later rounds, is your deck isn't catered to beat the better decks, because you're worried about things that are like annoying to play against, but you might not play against it. Talking about those 4 most popular decks in the format right now, I'm going to be showing you a couple cards per matchup that you want to consider putting in your main if you can run them, because they're going to help you beat those matchups. Then you can see which ones are the most popular, so you can decide which ones you want to main and potentially which ones you want to side. So Any variant of Mr. Rugi, for the most part, Droll is going to be absolutely fantastic, and so is Impulse. These are both very strong cards. I think Impulse is honestly the best card in the game right now. It's really insane. It's solemn from hand. These are two cards that if you are afraid of Mitsu, you should definitely be maining both of these. If you can, Impulse is not an every deck thing, but if you can play both of these are going to be very good in your main deck. Going into Malice, we already see some overlap, which is really cool. Impulse, again, just being a stellar card here. Nibiru now is going to be a really solid card in a Malice. Usually it's going to be Nibiru but it also depends on how your opponent opens, how they have to play with what they have. So it's always going to be an interesting route whenever you have just Nibiru, but usually if you have like Nibiru and Imperium, or like Ash and Nibiru, there's always going to be something that you can do further into just like cracking the board, right? So, Nibiru, Impulse, both very strong cards right now. Let's see the next one. We have more overlap. So now we're seeing Droll again and Ash. Generic hand traps like Ash and Imperium are very good into Blue Eyes. Droll and Lockbird, very good into Blue Eyes. So this is something where you can kind of look at what are the most impactful for the format, and then make sure that those hand traps are in your lineup. And you can kind of decide like how many of each deck you're going to play against at every event. Right now, if I was saying for like an event this weekend, I would think that Mitsu Raya is going to be like 2 or 3 times to run into it, maybe 4. It's really popular. Malice, I would say same thing, 2 to 3, maybe 4. And then Blue Eyes, I would say like 1 to like 1.5. And then Crystron, I would say like 0 to 1, even if it is getting a lot more popular. It still isn't popular enough yet. But talking about Crystron, we have the next one here, and that's going to be Crow and Impulse. Crow is really good here just because you can go ahead and hit cards that you can't hit with Bestials, and you can also cut your opponent off from some really important resources. But then, of course, also Impulse. This card is just broken. If you can play it, you should. It is the best card in the game. Again, it is very expensive at the moment, but that is something where if you do have the playset, it should be a mandatory 3-of staple in your main. In the current format, the number of hand traps that's pretty standard right now is anywhere from 14 to 18. But what are the best hand traps? We have Ash, Impulse, both of the Charmies, Imperium, and Droll. Now, Nibiru is really solid, and I'm not going to include Lancia because it's a very like matchup specific card. But these are generically the best cards you can be running right now. If they're in your deck list, you are on the right track. Of course, Impulse can't be played in every deck, but like the Charmies, a lot of people are maining Fuos and Perulia right now. So they're both very strong together in tandem. And then you also have Ash, Imperium, and Droll, all very good generically. I also wanted to add in a little tidbit about events, and this is something that is extremely important. You should really understand rulings before you go to events. You can also ask the judge staff before the event if there's something that you're really curious about. But if you get a floor judge that comes over to you when you have a question, you raise your hand, you call for judge. If you do not agree with the floor judge's ruling, you have the right to appeal to a head judge or an assistant head judge. This is extremely important. If you are for sure that something works a certain way, you make sure that you appeal to the highest judge so that you have the better chance at getting that ruling correct if you feel like the ruling is wrong. So that's something that I want to make sure that you feel empowered to do. I want to make sure that you know that you're allowed to do this, because the amount of times I've heard people say that they didn't know is kind of crazy. So I hope now that you do know that this will not be a problem for you going forward. You should really make sure that cards work the way that you think they do, so definitely go on Facebook and also join the Judges Lounge so you get a leg up on the competition and you can ask all of your questions and look through the actual Facebook page itself for certain cards, because a lot of times those questions you have already been asked and you don't have to ask them again. You can just go ahead and find a reservoir of rulings, which is fantastic because it saves you a lot of time, especially if you're just on DB. A lot of people are like, just look at the Judges Lounge. It's a really good, useful tool. Make sure that you are using it. In everyone's side deck right now, you should be having 2 Thrust, 1 Mischief of the Gnome, and 1 Artifact Sanctum alongside 3 Lancia. So this is post side 101. You should be siding and going first. 2 Thrust, 1 Mischief, 1 Sanctum. Either or, dependent on which matchup you're going into, right? If you're going into the Mitsu Rai matchup, that is going to be Thrust and Gnome. If you're going into Malice, it's going to be Thrust and Sanctum. these are going to be the most important cards that you have because they are, in fact, just turn skips. Mischief is even more brutal than anything because it does last the entire turn. It's not just like what's still in the hand at the moment, it's just the entirety of the turn. So card is very broken, very strong, and it's something that you definitely need to have going into an event coming up, even at Nationals. This is the card to shut down Rizio 100%. Then, of course, you want to play the Trinity, Triple Tactics Talent, Cross Out, and Call By. These cards are just going to make sure that your plays are going through, and even if they don't, you still have Tactics to look at the hand, or you can, like, draw 2 if you really need to. And so there's a lot of really good application for these cards. Of course, Call By being a good going first or second card, as well as Talent. Cross Out's realistically just going first. Going second, it's only really okay into the mirror. But even then, going second, I'm just siding it out because it's not like that fantastic. But there's a lot of different ways you can utilize cards like these, where I feel like this Trinity is just way too important not to play. So make sure that you have these cards in your deck list. If you haven't already checked out my Twitch, Twitter, Discord, or Instagram, definitely go ahead and do so, and subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can hit 24,000 by the end of the week, and then we can hit 30,000 by the end of the year. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll catch you all next video. Thank you.